Have you ever found yourself on the brink of something important, something you feel deeply passionate about, only to hesitate at the last moment because you're afraid of failing? Have you ever wondered what life would look like if we were free to make mistakes, to stumble, even to lose, without letting the fear of failure hold us back? We often see failure as a dead end, a sign of our inadequacy or lack of talent. But here's a surprising truth. When you no longer fear failure, you step into a world of true freedom. It's not a world where everything is perfect, but rather one where you can immerse yourself fully in new challenges and bold creativity, unbound by the chains of what others might think. In today's society, where quick success is glorified and everyone seems to share only their triumphs while hiding their missteps, the fear of failure has become one of our greatest burdens. Countless dreams, ideas, and even innate gifts have been buried under the pressure to get it right the first time. This fear prevents so many of us from daring to try or to stand out, because deep down, we'd rather stay invisible than face the sting of falling short. Yet one person proved otherwise. An artisan potter who faced ridicule, saw his kilns crack one after another, and nearly went bankrupt, but ended up creating some of the most unconventional and celebrated ceramic pieces in his region. Would you believe that his repeated failures became the very key to escaping the cycle of fear, allowing him to discover a sense of freedom he never dreamed possible? In this piece, we will explore the remarkable journey of this potter through 5 sections: storytelling, analysis, practical guidance, and a conclusion including a call to action. You'll discover that failure isn't the finale we often mistake it to be. In many cases, it can be the foundation upon which genuine success is built. So don't listen to the whispers of doubt telling you you're not good enough or you can't do this, because in reality, failure never truly ends your story. Only the fear of failure holds you back. Join me in this exploration. Whether you're harboring a plan you've been too scared to attempt or you're still reeling from a few setbacks, I hope the potter's tale and the lessons we'll uncover will ignite a fierce determination to keep going, ultimately breaking free from the fear of failure once and for all. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a small, unassuming village tucked away in a quiet countryside. The sun rises each day over rolling hills, casting long shadows on rows of modest homes. But amid this peaceful simplicity, there is one element that stands out: its renowned pottery tradition. All around, you can sense the earthy scent of clay and feel the warmth of glowing kilns. In every corner of this village, generations have carefully shaped lumps of wet earth into vessels of art and utility. No matter how humble its appearance, this is a place where creativity has flourished for centuries, celebrated by both locals and the occasional traveler who happens upon it. Within this tapestry of potters, one particular craftsman developed an almost mythical reputation. He was not yet famous for success. In fact, his story was defined by one recurring theme: failure, but to understand how his setbacks became his greatest triumph. We first have to step into his world. From the time he was a small boy, this potter-to-be would rush to the workshop at every opportunity. He watched in awe as older artisans spun their wheels, their hands skillfully guiding the clay into everything from household jars to finely sculpted bowls. The boy's eyes sparkled with a dream. One day, he would create the perfect ceramic piece, flawless in form and precisely glazed. Even as a child, he felt the weight of that ambition. He was told that in this village, you don't just make pottery, you uphold a legacy. As he grew, he poured every ounce of energy into learning the craft. He meticulously studied how to prepare clay, how to maintain the right temperature in the kiln, and how to mix glazes in just the right proportions. Yet, with every new skill he acquired, an anxiety crept in. He must not fail. He must live up to the expectations the village had for its potters, never allowing a single flaw to mar his work. It wasn't merely a desire to do well, it became an all-consuming obsession with perfection. In those early days, each piece that came out of his kiln was like a referendum on his worth. When the glaze cracked, he would stare at the fissures with a stinging sense of shame. When a pot emerged slightly misshapen, his heart would sink, and he'd hide it away so no one could see. The village elders, while kind, still carried a certain air of judgment. We've done this for generations. We expect your best. And so the potter's fear of failure grew, pressing down on him every time he touched the clay. For a while, he managed to keep this fear in check. He produced decent pieces, good enough to sell, good enough to meet the village's basic standards. But there was no spark, no sense of originality or soul in his work. He was far too consumed with avoiding mistakes to risk trying something new. The crisis came like a slow burn turning into a raging fire. One day, he decided to invest in a more ambitious glaze technique, hoping this might finally yield the perfect vase he'd pictured in his mind since childhood. Yet the new method proved unpredictable. One kiln after another ended in disaster. Vessels shattered from temperature imbalances, and those that survived displayed bizarre streaks of color that appalled his early customers. He drained his savings, used up all his spare materials, and found himself on the brink of financial ruin. Criticism poured in from the very villagers who once supported him. Clients complained, calling his experiments reckless and unprofessional, leaving him with a mound of unsold pieces and an even heavier heart. Desperate and humiliated, the potter reached a breaking point. He contemplated quitting the trade, perhaps finding safer, more predictable work. "I can't do this anymore," he murmured to himself after one particularly devastating kiln failure. The workshop was silent except for the faint crackling of cooling clay and the swirling dust kicked up by his shuffling feet. Then came a day of unexpected clarity. It happened after an elderly woman, a traveling merchant, or perhaps an eccentric mentor, depending on who tells the tale, appeared in his workshop. Unlike most who either pitied or scolded him, she neither praised nor chastised. Instead, she observed one ruined pot that was strangely beautiful in its imperfection. Spiraled cracks gave it a rare texture, and oddly tinted glaze made each curve shimmer uniquely. She lifted it gently and said, "You know, if you stop fearing these cracks, you may discover they are a part of something more marvelous than you think." Her words struck him like a chisel breaking stone. Right then, he realized that his fear of failure was killing his creativity, and that fear might just be the greatest failure of all. So began a new phase of his journey, one that no longer ran from mistakes, but actively embraced them. He started experimenting with unconventional techniques, playing with temperatures he'd once deemed too risky, blending glazes that seemed incompatible, and molding shapes that defied traditional forms. Each disaster that emerged from his kiln became a study in what went wrong. He took notes, tried again, and sometimes repeated the same error on purpose to see what new patterns might emerge. Oddly enough, these so-called failures became the source of his most compelling work. One pot came out covered in vibrant drips of glaze, which once horrified him but now filled him with excitement. He realized these drips mirrored nature's organic flow, trees with winding roots, or streams cutting through rocky terrain. Word soon spread about this potter whose flawed creations were both daring and oddly captivating. Collectors started to seek out these one-of-a-kind pieces. The potter's workshop, once shunned, turned into a hive of curiosity for those wanting to witness his accidents that somehow transformed into art. As the orders trickled in and grew, he found not just financial stability, but a profound sense of relief. He was no longer shackled by the fear that every piece had to be perfect. On the contrary, his willingness to let the process unfold with all its unpredictability made his ceramics stand out in a marketplace filled with repetitive designs. The cracks and streaks, once marks of shame, became his signature style, a living testament to the art of embracing imperfection. From that point on, the potter began to teach younger artisans the same spirit. He'd wave a nearly ruined bowl in front of them and say, with a calm smile, "Don't hide it, learn from it. Let it speak." Where once he had been paralyzed by every fracture and blemish, he now saw those flaws as the very essence of expression. His joy, true and unbounded, came not from never stumbling, but from knowing that each misstep was simply a new avenue to explore. And so he passed on the final, crucial lesson. Happiness and freedom arrived when he stopped trembling at the thought of failure. In letting go of his terror over broken pots and missed expectations, he discovered that the line between success and failure is far more fluid than he ever realized. He had not set out to become a rule breaker, but by shedding his fear, he became precisely that, and in doing so, He earned the respect and admiration of an entire community. No longer was he the potter who merely followed tradition. He was the visionary whose errors redefined what the village thought was possible. Standing before a group of apprentices one morning, he challenged them. Go on. Mess up. Let something crack. That's how you'll truly learn to shape your destiny. He knew from personal experience that failure does not spell the end. Rather, it's a beginning, a place where, if you dare to keep going, you'll find the freedom you didn't know was possible. When we talk about failure, what usually comes to mind, for many, it's a sense of dread, humiliation, or a loss of self-worth. Some envision disapproving looks from peers, others fear shattered dreams, and still others imagine never recovering from a single stumble. Yet beneath these concerns lies a broader social narrative, one that prizes instant success and judges mistakes harshly. In this section, we'll unpack how the fear of failure arises, why it holds us back, and how embracing imperfection can unlock a state of inner freedom, drawing on both psychological insights and Buddhist wisdom. 1. The fear of failure. Roots and consequences. In a world that idolizes rapid achievement, where social media feeds are flooded with curated triumphs, the message is clear. Don't fail. If you do, hide it. This constant emphasis on success warps our perception of reality, making it appear as though everyone else is thriving effortlessly while we alone struggle. Psychologically, such a skewed view can lead to perfectionism, the relentless pursuit of flawlessness that leaves little room for experimentation or learning. When people internalize this pressure, they develop a paralyzing fear of being judged, of not meeting expectations, and of feeling less than. From a scientific standpoint, fear of failure can trigger a fight or flight response in the brain, elevating stress hormones like cortisol. Over time, these stress levels can impede creativity, reduce motivation, and hamper problem-solving abilities. Instead of boldly trying new things, individuals may opt for safety and predictability, subconsciously believing that staying small or invisible is better than risking a public misstep. Such a mindset doesn't simply affect one's career or artistic endeavors. It spills over into every realm of life: relationships, self-esteem, and personal growth. People who are deeply afraid of failure might procrastinate important tasks, avoid taking on new challenges, or quit prematurely. In essence, fear of failure doesn't just prevent a single failure, it prevents the possibility of any meaningful success. 2. Letting go of fear. The path to inner freedom. Yet imagine a life where the thought of failure doesn't send you into a tailspin of anxiety. What if you could see mistakes not as permanent marks against your worth, but as essential stepping stones to mastery, insight, and invention? When we let go of the fear of failure, we step into a realm of creative freedom. Freedom to experiment without the looming threat of shame. you're more willing to try new techniques, approaches, or ideas. Much like the potter who began experimenting with unconventional glazes and shapes, your willingness to test uncharted territory can yield remarkable results. Freedom to learn. Mistakes become teachers rather than embarrassments. Each error is a clue, guiding you on how to adjust your methods. Instead of throwing away flawed prototypes, you study them, refining each new iteration. Freedom to stay confident. When you accept that failure is part of any meaningful process, your confidence no longer hinges on being right 100% of the time. You gain a sense of inner stability knowing you're in control of the effort, if not the outcome. This shift in mindset is a powerful antidote to stress. By focusing on the journey rather than an all-or-nothing end goal, your mental and emotional energy can channel itself into progress, not panic. 3. A Buddhist perspective. Buddhist philosophy offers timeless insights that resonate deeply with the idea of releasing fear and embracing the learning process. Impermanence anicca. Nothing stays the same forever. A perceived failure today can transform into tomorrow's breakthrough. When we realize that no outcome, good or bad, is permanent, the sting of failure begins to fade. Non-self anatta. We often conflate our mistakes with our identity, saying, "I failed, so I am a failure." Buddhism reminds us that our sense of self is not fixed. It's an ever-evolving stream of thoughts, actions, and experiences. A botched project doesn't define who you are, it merely reflects a single chapter in your ongoing story. Letting go, non-attachment. In Buddhist teachings, non-attachment doesn't mean not caring. It means not clinging obsessively to a fixed result. By releasing rigid expectations of success, we open ourselves to the unfolding reality. Just as the potter discovered, letting go of the obsession with perfection allowed genuine innovation and deeper satisfaction to emerge. 4. Misguided beliefs that need debunking. Fear of failure often thrives on inaccurate assumptions. Let's unpack some of these beliefs. Not fearing failure means being reckless. There's a difference between recklessness and courage. Courage involves preparation, awareness of risks, and a willingness to face uncertainty. You can be bold and careful at the same time, like a mountaineer who plans meticulously but still takes on the challenge of a steep climb. Frequent failures imply incompetence. In reality, people who fail frequently are often those who are testing the boundaries of what's possible. History is filled with pioneers like Thomas Edison or the Wright brothers who accumulated countless failures before succeeding in monumental ways. Each misstep fine-tuned their understanding. 5. Lessons from the potter. Returning to the story of our artisan, he lived in a village known for its centuries-old gourd and vase designs, each created with extreme precision. Yet, by dedicating himself to experimentation and welcoming every fractured pot or oddly glazed surface, he defied the standard approach. At first, his methods were shunned, and he endured a wave of criticism. But he persisted, turning failures into a laboratory for discovery. In doing so, he stumbled upon distinctive aesthetics that went beyond the village's traditional repertoire. By analyzing cracks, he discovered new ways to control temperature. By studying unexpected glaze drips, he learned to harness chaotic beauty. Such an approach shows us that intentional failure, done with an inquisitive spirit, can give birth to original styles and even revolutionary breakthroughs. More importantly, as his journey progressed, the potter found an inner calm. He was free to stay up all night tweaking a formula, unafraid of the morning's results because he saw value in both success and shortfall. That is the essence of living without the fear of failure. Experiencing peace of mind regardless of how a single attempt pans out. 6 broad applications. The lessons gleaned from the potter's workshop extend far beyond the artistic realm. Work and business. Startups often pivot multiple times before landing on a profitable model. Allowing a failed product launch to inform your next decisions can be more valuable than any market analysis. Education and personal skills. Students who aren't terrified of getting answers wrong are more apt to ask questions and explore subjects in greater depth, ultimately mastering the material more thoroughly. Creative fields. Writers, musicians, and designers need to embrace the editing and revision process. Even a thrown-away draft can spark an unforeseen masterpiece. Relationships. Emotional courage, like telling someone you appreciate them or admitting you're at fault, may risk rejection or awkwardness. Yet it's often in these vulnerable moments that genuine connection blooms. Personal health and growth. Trying a new diet or exercise routine might fail at first, but each attempt teaches you more about what does and doesn't work for your body. Wherever you apply this principle, the result is a life lived with greater creativity, exploration, and resilience. 7. Impact on happiness and mental health. Finally, freeing yourself from the dread of failure can do wonders for your emotional well-being. Stress levels drop when you no longer equate a misstep with personal inadequacy. Your mind becomes open to new ideas, your heart open to new opportunities, rather than seeing life as a pass/fail exam. You start viewing it as an evolving course in which each lesson is valuable. This expanded perspective also fosters self-compassion. Instead of punishing yourself for falling short, you learn to offer the same kindness you would give a friend who stumbled. Such self-compassion is linked to higher resilience, better relationships, and an overall sense of fulfillment. Indeed, the difference in mindset is palpable. Before, if I fail, I'm worthless. After, if I fail, I learn, and I am still growing. One fosters fear and stagnation. The other encourages growth and liberation. In essence, the fear of failure is like a thick fog obscuring your path. It's a distraction, pulling your attention away from the process and fixating it on potential judgment or loss. But as the potter's tale so beautifully demonstrates, Once you move beyond that fog, once you accept that cracks and imperfections can be stepping stones rather than final verdicts, you claim a freedom that transcends the outcome of any single endeavor. Embracing missteps as part of the journey doesn't guarantee you'll never encounter disappointment. What it does guarantee is that you'll keep learning, keep moving, and ultimately find yourself unshackled by the one thing more damaging than failure itself: the fear that keeps you from ever trying. Now that we've explored why letting go of the fear of failure can be so liberating, let's shift to concrete strategies you can implement in your daily life. The key idea here is to transform theory into practice: small, consistent actions that gradually shift your mindset and build resilience. Think of these as gentle experiments rather than strict assignments. Each exercise is designed to help you reframe failure as a stepping stone rather than a dead end. 1. Failure journal. One simple yet powerful exercise is to keep a failure journal. At the start of each week, write down a goal or task that you're prepared to attempt, fully accepting the possibility that it might not work out perfectly. This could be applying for a new job, learning a new skill, or presenting an idea in a meeting. How to do it. Set aside a page or digital note titled "Failures This Week." Clearly state the task or challenge you plan to take on. If things don't go as planned, document what happened. Include details of the outcome, how you felt, and most importantly, what you learned. If you happen to succeed, celebrate that. But still note any small hiccups or areas where you can improve. Why it helps. By acknowledging that failure can occur, you lower the psychological stakes. Reviewing your failures also highlights the learning opportunities hidden in each stumble, gradually helping you see setbacks in a more constructive light. 2. Reframing perspective. Before starting a new endeavor, whether it's launching a personal project or simply trying a different approach at work, take a moment to adopt a reframing mindset. How to do it. Right before you dive in, pause and ask yourself, if this doesn't go as I hope, what could I still gain or learn? You can even jot down a quick list of potential benefits that might surface from a less than ideal outcome. New skills, contacts, insights, or simply the experience of having tried. Why it helps. Shifting focus from must succeed to can learn nomad are what softens the fear of failure. It conditions your mind to see value beyond a single measure of success. 3. Meditation on letting go of outcomes. A useful way to calm the anxiety surrounding results is to practice a brief meditation, one that emphasizes presence and detachment from specific end goals. How to do it. Sit comfortably. Close your eyes and begin with slow, deliberate breathing. As you breathe in, visualize the process you're about to undertake: writing a book, preparing a business pitch, or creating art. As you exhale, gently release any fixation on the exact outcome. Imagine that worry or pressure flowing out with each breath. Continue this visualization for a few minutes, allowing yourself to feel lighter with each exhalation. Why it helps. The practice trains your mind to focus on the journey rather than the destination. Letting go of rigid expectations can reduce stress and make you more receptive to creative solutions. 4. Many risks daily doses of failing safely. To get comfortable with failing, try introducing small challenges into your routine that carry a mild risk of not going perfectly. The idea is to desensitize your brain to the fear of slip-ups. How to do it. Each day, pick one action that stretches your comfort zone, a new recipe you've never cooked, posting a social media update on a topic you're curious about, or attempting a workout you're not sure you can complete. Approach it with a sense of playfulness, knowing full well it might not turn out the way you expect. Why it helps. Regular exposure to small uncertainties helps your mind adapt to bigger uncertainties in the future. Over time, you realize mistakes are rarely as devastating as you imagined, reducing the stigma around imperfection. 5. Building a supportive community no matter how committed you are. Going it alone can feel daunting. Finding others who share a similar mindset can be incredibly motivating. How to do it. Seek out a friend, coworker, or online group interested in overcoming fear of failure. Arrange weekly check-ins, where everyone shares a recent failure and what they learned from it. Celebrate each other's attempts, no matter the result. Why it helps. Hearing other people's stories normalizes failure. You'll soon realize everyone slips up at one point or another. Learning from each other's experiences accelerates growth and fosters a culture where setbacks are seen as part of the process rather than shameful missteps. By incorporating these practices into your life, you gradually rewrite the narrative around failure. Instead of fearing the slightest misstep, you begin to see each stumble as a clue, each miscalculation as part of an ongoing experiment in living fully. Over time, you'll discover that the greatest triumph isn't avoiding failures, it's embracing them as the stepping stones they truly are. We've traveled through the fears and insights surrounding failure, explored how one potter transformed his so-called mistakes into a signature style, and discovered practical ways to break free from the chains of perfectionism. At the heart of it all lies a simple, yet powerful truth. The moment you stop fearing failure, you unlock the freedom to create, to innovate, and to live genuinely as yourself. The potter's journey reminds us that real success often emerges from risks willingly taken. He succeeded not because he avoided every misstep, but because he learned from them, turning each flaw into a distinct layer of beauty. What was once labeled a mistake eventually became his brand's defining characteristic, a testament to the transformative power of embracing imperfection. Now it's your turn to let go of the grip that fear has on you. Start today. Commit to one thing you've been hesitating to try, a skill you're afraid you won't master, a project you've been putting off, or a conversation you've been dreading. Whether it goes exactly as planned or takes an unexpected turn, you will learn something invaluable. And that new understanding, in turn, becomes the foundation upon which your growth stands. If you found these insights helpful, please like this content and subscribe to the channel so we can continue on this journey together, tackling our fears and discovering our full potential. If you've had your own struggles or triumphs in facing failure, I invite you to comment below and share your story. I'd love to hear about your experiences and support you on this path toward greater courage and self-discovery. Thank you for taking the time to read or watch all the way through. It takes real determination to confront the things we fear, and your presence here shows you're ready to break free from the fear of failure. As you move forward, remember, every step, even a misstep, holds the promise of new possibilities. The more you dare to act, the more opportunities you'll uncover, and the less hold fear will have on your life. I wish you every success as you step beyond your comfort zone. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and don't be afraid to let a few cracks show. They just might lead you to a masterpiece.